Right, you could be a champion. You could be in the Hall of Fame. Good evening, Ghana. Welcome to Personality Profile here on Joy 99.7 FM. I'm Lexis Bill. You know, I look forward to these Thursday evenings where we get to sit with amazing people doing amazing stuff all over the world. And this evening, I have one such amazing brother here today. Yeah, honestly, you're going to love this conversation we're about to have. Yeah, so tell a friend that Lexus is on the Personality Profile. We're actually live on Facebook as well. You can actually share the link with your friends and fam in the WhatsApp groups and whatnot. Let everybody know that Personality Profile is live. Right, so this evening, I'm joined by a man whose voice echoes far beyond boardrooms and conference stages. He's a global business speaker who has shared platforms with presidents and powerhouses, a venture capitalist backing disruptive African ideas, an author whose words challenge mindsets and ignite ambition, an entrepreneur who's built and continues to build businesses that shape economies and empower people. He's the founder and CEO of the My Growth Fund Venture Partners, founder of School of Scale, as well as a GQ business leader, an award he got back in 2020. He won the Guardian Award at the last EMY Africa Awards here in Accra and Toastmasters International Communication and Leadership Award this year, 2025. Vusi Thembekwayo. It's not just a name. He's a force. Yep. Known for his fierce intellect, unfiltered honesty, and unrelenting belief in Africa's potential. From humble beginnings in South Africa to becoming one of the most sought-after voices in business and leadership across the continent, the pride of Benoni, I say. Yeah, from the Gauteng province. His story is both proof and provocation that where you come from doesn't define how far you can go. So get ready for an amazing conversation with the one and only Vusi Thembekwayo. Vusi!
What an intro. I need to hear that every morning of my life when I wake up. Every morning. I'm recording it and I'm replaying it every single morning.
You're living it, bro. It's all you.
God is
it's
good.
All you.
God is good.
How are you?
I'm blessed.
Welcome to my studios. Really happy to have you in here. Lots of folks are tuning in, excited to listen to you on Personality Profile, and even more excited to attend your Masterclass tomorrow, which we're going to talk about pretty shortly. But let me just first welcome you. I know you got a cup of coffee. You need some rest. I'll let you go. But for now, we need to delve into a bit of you and all. How have you been doing?
I've been great, by God's grace. I've really been good. I was telling you I'm fresh off the boat. I just came off the plane.
Yes.
So I've been good. I was on tour in the U.S. I'm here now. When I leave here, I go back to Atlanta to continue speaking and touring. So I've really, really been blessed. I cannot complain.
You consider Ghana home now? Because I think you've been here quite a bit.
I've been here. I want to say this is my fourth or fifth time.
And the last time you were here, you won an award, the Guardian Award at the EMY Africa
It was incredible. What a night. I have to tell you, nobody knows how to throw a party like Kojo.
Kojo is amazing.
Yeah.
EMY Africa parties are the best.
And he has this incredible ability to connect people.
Yeah.
And so you come into a space that he's curated, and you can almost underestimate him until you arrive, and then you realize you're networking with some incredible people. But I mean, Ghana's home to me, right?
Good.
I've got.
How did you feel about that particular award, the Guardian Award?
It was really the cherry on the cake of what was an incredible year last year.
Okay.
Recognizing what the award is about and what it stands for. You know, it's interesting, right? Because in my craft, the feedback that you get on the impact that you're having sometimes takes a really long time. You can impact people's lives and not know it for 10, 20 years.
Yeah.
And then in 10 or 20 years, somebody, bumps across you and says, I was sitting in the audience when you said X, Y, and Z and my life changed.
Yeah.
And so those kind of rooms and platforms are really a great way to go, oh, wow, I'm making a difference. I mean, I was there. John Gani, who's a fellow South African who plays King T'Challa's dad in Black Panther, also wins an award. Now,
I remember his speech, though. You remember that one?
I remember it. I remember it.
Very powerful one there.
Right. And now realize I grew up watching John Gani on TV.
Okay.
Like, I was a kid watching this guy, and he was already a national hero. And he used theater and performance to fight against the system of apartheid. So the freedom that I get to enjoy is in part because of the work that him and his generation did. So to be on the same stage as him, receiving an award on the same platform, what do you say? Like there's nothing you can. 3 days ago, I was on the same stage as Miss Oprah Winfrey, and I'm standing at the stage going, how on earth did I just go from kid in Benoni who was watching Oprah on TV to standing on the same stage that Oprah's on, speaking on the same platform? Just I can't. It is not but by the grace of God.
Would you attribute that to grace or hard work?
Definitely grace. Definitely grace. There are people out there who work hard. Hard work is necessary, but it's not sufficient. Right. There are people out there who work hard. I'm sure some who work harder than I have, who probably have deserved it more than I have.
Yeah.
But when there is a grace on your life, when God has called you for a season and He's given you an assignment and you honor that calling and that assignment, that grace will take you so far. This has been my testimony.
Amazing testimony. We're witnesses to it, to the many things that you've done. If you're listening in and you have questions for Vusi, send us a WhatsApp on 055-1111997. You can get onto our Facebook video as well and post your comment in there. My team will let me have it so I can share with Vusi and get answers for you. I know tomorrow you're hosting a business masterclass. Yeah. Lots of businessmen and women are looking forward to that as well. I don't want to take any part of that conversation tomorrow, but what should people expect in that masterclass?
Well, we're living in an interesting time. This time we're living in has three major themes that are attached to it. First, it is for the first time in the history of the world, as I have read it, where all peoples of the continent understand themselves to be peoples of the continent. Let me tell you what I mean by that. When I'm in the U.S. and I speak to black people in the U.S. who were formerly enslaved people, they understand that Africa is home. I'm doing a tour later on in the year where I'm going to be speaking in the Caribbean. When I travel into the Caribbean, they understand that Africa is home. And so it is no longer that it's black Americans and then black Africans. It's now Africans and people of African descent. And that cultural revolution, Tyler, the famous South African, releasing a song called Water, and it becomes the biggest song in the world. If you look at what's happening with fashion coming out of Ghana, you look at what's happening with music coming out of Nigeria, it permeates all over the world where our people are. There's been a cultural revolution, Lexis. The only problem is it hasn't translated into our economics. And so the question becomes, if we can build these bridges of culture and we can share music and TikTok challenges, what would happen if we really shared our economic opportunities and prospects? If the diaspora could meaningfully invest into the spaces where we are, and if we could get exposure to some of the information opportunities that they're at, what would that look like? So that's the first major theme. Second major theme is around this thing of technology. You can go down that rabbit hole as deep as you want to go down that rabbit hole. And then the third major theme is around the importance of leadership when all of these three things are happening. These two things are happening at the same time. And so in the masterclass tomorrow, I'll be talking about what does it take to identify opportunities and to lead in a season such as this.
No, good stuff. Well, totally can't wait. Folks, if you want to be there, there's a number to call, 020-201-8870. Call the team at EMY Africa. They're going to get you a slot there so you can be there tomorrow at the Accra International Conference Center. Sometimes I wonder how you maneuver this life because aside being a global speaker, you're a business leader. You have businesses that you manage. And you rightly said you were on stage with Oprah a couple of days ago. Now you're in Ghana. You're thinking of Caribbean, whatnot. Really, how do you manage this? How do you balance this? Are you the brand ambassador for working on the go? We should.
Yeah, I mean, I first I should say, I'm 40 this year. I started doing this at 19. So I'm 21, 22 years doing this. So I've been at this a long time.
Wow.
Some people say I'm an overnight success that took 10 years. I'm an overnight success that took 20. And so over 20 years, you get to build a lot of systems. You get to try a lot, see what works and see what doesn't. But there are two answers to your question. First is systems.
Okay.
I have incredible systems that govern all the areas of my life. And secondly is teams. The role of a leader is to build people. It's not to build a business. So it doesn't actually matter what it is that you do. If you build people, the thing you want to build will manifest as a function of it. And for me, that's been my focus. Building capable, competent people around me, giving them the space to test, try, expand, to experiment. And it's giving them the freedom within the framework of what we want to achieve and say, go do it.
Yeah.
Right. And that, when you get it right, you get the right person, the right time, the right thinking, and the values align, it's exponential, the impact that it has in your business. So that's how I do it.
Yeah. 19. You started this at 19.
Well, I started public speaking at 15. I competed at world championship level for the first time at 17. And at 19, I turned professional.
So when we're much younger, and I'm just thinking about the.
Where did you go? You just went somewhere.
Yeah, I went to when I was 19, right? And I was playing football in the fields and whatnot. And not thinking of being on stages and speaking to like a gazillion people. I probably would even have stage fright if I stepped on stage at 19.
I mean, to give you a sense, when I was 17, I was touring Australia speaking. So I was in Australia for a very long time. Different parts of the country, which is in truth a subcontinent, speaking. I've been at, as I say, so God has really been good.
So what kind of foundations built this?
So that's a good question.
Yes,
that's a good question.
Where did it come from?
So another career high I should tell you is that just less than a month ago, I was speaking at the Oxford Debate Society, which, to put it in context, if you are an artist, say, you want to have your work exhibited at the Louvre in Paris.
Right.
Right? If you are a sculptor, you would love to have your work standing next to the statue of David. Mm-hmm. If you're a public speaker, you want to speak at the Oxford Debate Society.
Congratulations.
The Oxford Debate Union is 200 years old.
Yeah.
You've had the Dalai Lama, you've had Malcolm X, you've had the now late Queen Elizabeth herself, and several other dignitaries who stood on the same stage I just stood on and spoke there. The answer to your question is this. There are two streams in public speaking. There's the American stream. A lot of people know it's called Toastmasters.
Right.
And in the American stream, you go through a particular system of training. And then there is what later becomes the Oxford stream at university, but there's the British system of public speaking. I started in the British system of public speaking.
Okay.
We're quite snobbish in how we think about the world. We're trained a particular way, similar to how you would train a classical pianist. And so I started public speaking at school, was competing at school level.
Okay.
Then I was competing at world level whilst I was at school. And that really is kind of what set up my foundation.
What actually birthed the interest in public speaking in the beginning? You get what I mean? Even before you started competing
I didn't even have an interest. I didn't have an interest. This is a true story. I was in class, and I was being loud in class. And my teacher was head of the Public Speaking Society.
Okay.
And she threatened to put me on detention unless I joined the Public Speaking Society.
Oh, dear.
And listen, I don't know how it is here in Ghana, but in my country, if you're raised by a black mother, you don't want to go home and tell her you're on detention, right?
Yeah.
Because you're going to get the hiding of your life. And so I said to the teacher, I said, listen, I'll do whatever, just don't put me on detention. And she said, well, do the public speaking thing. That's how I got into public speaking, completely by chance. It was just God's ordained hand that kind of forced me into that path.
This is literally under duress. You did it under duress.
Indeed, indeed.
I think it turned out good. Turned out gold.
It turned out gold. But I think that the lesson has been that, even if coincidence pulls you to a space, that, I always say to people, there's no such thing as coincidence, only God incidence.
Yeah.
That God will move you around in that environment enough that He will amplify your being in that space at that time.
Who believed in you first before the world did?
Definitely my mother. So I should say that I'm raised by unbelievable parents. My father died. My father was murdered when I was 13.
He was murdered?
He was murdered. In South Africa, we had then, as we still do now, quite a severe crime problem. I love my country, so I don't want to speak poorly about it, but this is a well-documented crime challenge that we've had in South Africa. And so when I was 13, my father was murdered. And my mother basically raised us as she would do, as a single mom. But my father was a first degree black belt, and so he was the sensei in the dojo. And so I grew up spending time with Dad in the dojo.
Okay.
So my love for ritual, for routine, for the disciplined execution of things, even when it doesn't seem like you're making progress, is something that I was taught from when I was yay high. Because that's effectively what happens when you do martial arts, right?
Yeah.
You're in the dojo every day practicing the same punch, the same kick, the same move, the same kata. But it doesn't appear on that day as if you're making progress.
Yeah.
Until many, many, many years later, something happens and you realize it's now become a natural reflex. You can move in this way. And so I say to many young people that if you can learn the discipline of commitment without the appearance of progress, you will absolutely outperform everybody. The problem today with that phone in your lap and feedback culture is we have this thing where we want to put something out, you want immediate feedback. Put something out and immediate feedback. If you can learn how to disconnect your effort from feedback and commit to the effort anyway, your life will change. So first I had this unbelievably regimented, strict, but deep love and commitment from my dad. And I recognize as a father now what having a loving relationship with a father does to a boy. It just sets you up differently. You don't see vulnerability as a weakness, and you don't see caring as a form of weakness. And then this unbelievable woman, my mother, who, when my father passed away, really without the economic means, found a way to make a life for us. Still found a way to send us to the best schools that she could afford to. Found a way to keep us engaged in those schools. And found a way to make sure that we wanted for nothing to the best of her ability.
Yeah.
And so watching her character and her courage come through, and then that kind of love and commitment from dad, it just sets you up at a character level as a different human being.
Do you think life would have been a little different if dad was around?
I have often wondered that question. I mean, his death matured me too early for sure. For sure. I from a very early age took life seriously.
Okay.
I should say that whilst I am the middle child, I am the oldest son. I also took my father's name.
Oh, okay.
And in my culture, that's a very deep thing. When a man births himself, we look upon that with a great amount of reverence and respect. So I have often wondered if dad was here, would I have, been the same guy? Would I have been quite as driven?
Yeah.
Would I have been quite as focused? I don't know. But I've only lived the path that God has given me.
What about your mom? If there's one thing you can pinpoint that mom instilled in you now that still lives with you, what would that be?
Probably forcing us to go to church when we didn't want to go.
Ah.
I mean, I think that's the story of many young black kids.
Yeah.
Mom takes you to church even when you don't want to go. So I grew up Roman Catholic, confirmed Roman Catholic. And mom had us in the church. She had me as an altar server, then had me in the youth, then, all of those things. And I think her insistence from an early age that we have an approximation to God is something that's been very important. Very important. But also my mother is, and this is something I admire about her. I don't have quite the same gift, but she is a very communal person. She's very deeply entrenched in her community. She is committed to the community, the people she lives around. She's very involved in, the struggles of the people around her home and where we grew up. She's an elder at the church now, which makes her an elder at the community as well. And so she occupies this position of leadership, of being a sage person, of wisdom.
Yeah.
I tend to lead in the spaces that I'm in, but I don't think I have developed that capacity yet.
Right. You've been doing this from 17, 19, 20, and speaking across the globe. Was there a moment that you told yourself, I'm built for more, or I'm built for this? Was there a particular eureka moment that it just snapped, like, this is it?
It's a good question. Man, you ask good questions. Let me think. So, they have been several. I tend to think of those moments as like, you know how when you're like tired, you take a shot of Red Bull and you've got energy again, right? For me, it's been a lot like this. So, for instance, when I was in Australia, go back now, 2002, one of the families I stayed with, because I was staying with family Rotary families. One of those families, the head of the home, the father of the house, was a member of Parliament. And so I get invited by happenstance to go to Parliament with him. And then I get invited by happenstance to deliver a 5-minute speech at the Australian Houses of Parliament at 17.
Wow.
Sets you up different. That was the first. At 19, I get to share the stage with our then president in South Africa, Thabo Mbeki. that was a second.
Yeah.
Getting to meet Nelson Mandela, that was a third.
Okay.
But I'll tell you, there's been an interesting moment, and I don't think I've shared this publicly before. Maybe about 11 years ago, I shared the stage with the Reverend L. Sharpton.
Okay.
Now, when it comes to public speaking, you know how, like, if you're a soccer man?
Yes.
Right. So when it comes to football, if you had to play a one-on-one contest with with any nation or any person or talent from any nation, the least you would want to compete with is a Brazilian, just because of the history.
Yeah,
They've got
course.
Ronaldo, Ronaldinho,
Yeah.
Pelé, Kaká. They've got this, like, right.
Yeah.
When it comes to one-on-one public speaking, the worst person you want to compete with is an American Baptist preacher. just I mean, it's like, think about Martin Luther King. You think about T.D. Jakes. You think about the Reverend L. Sharpton. They all have that. They have this, and they have this ability to, like, rile up an audience, and then you're finding yourself going, I don't know what you're saying, but I agree, right?
Yeah.
So I got to share the stage with the Reverend L. Sharpton about 11 years ago, maybe 11, 12 years ago. And I made the mistake of allowing the convener to let him go first.
Oh, dear.
And he got on that stage and he set the bar here.
Oh, boy.
And I remember I'm sitting on the stage and he's standing behind the podium and I'm watching him. And as a technically trained public speaker, I'm then watching my audience.
Yeah.
And then as he speaks, you just see people go, yeah. And then he says something, and then there's a hand clap. And then he says something, it's like, woo! I'm like, I can't. I don't get woo!
Yeah.
I can't. So that experience, and then I got to go, and he gets a standing ovation. He gets up, he gets a standing ovation. I'm going, I don't want to do this now, man. I'm done. The conference organizer goes up on stage, reads my bio, introduces me. I can't recall what I said. I recall getting a standing ovation at the end of it.
Wow.
And so I then get off the stage, and there's the lady who had convened the conference, who was the mayor of the city. He's standing at the other end. I'm standing at this end. And he looks at me and he says, "You are incredibly gifted, young man." But he's talking between you. I said, "Thank you, sir." And then he says, "How old are you?" I said, I said, "I'm 28. And he says, "I cannot wait to see what God does in your life, man."
Wow.
And so that, for me, that moment still stands out, because
They should.
you then realize if you can compete at that level,
Then you're set for great things.
then you're set. But you've got to constantly aim for that level, because you can come down, right? You know, between the Olympics, athletes have 4 years. I always say to people, what tests the character of an athlete is not the time of the Olympics; it's the 4 years leading up to it.
Yeah.
Because the moment on the pedestal with that medal is earned in that 4 years.
Not in that 11 seconds.
Not in that 11. I'll tell you very quickly. 3 years ago, I'm on stage with the most decorated athlete in the history of sports and the history of the Olympics, Michael Phelps. So I'm speaking at a conference, and Michael's going to be speaking after me. Michael has won more gold medals than any other human being in the history of the Olympics, right? This is the Michael Phelps. They call him Aquaman for a reason.
Yeah.
And he stands about 2 inches taller than me, and he's got hands like, his hands are like here. He's got like webbed hands. He's got like his size 15 shoes. I'm like, look at this guy. Anyway, so Michael and I are talking. And backstage, I'm talking to him, because I get up on stage and I speak, and then he sees me, and while the convener does something, he and I spark up a conversation. He says, "Man, I love the way you do your thing," etc. I said to him, "So how'd you do it?" Because I'm a how guy. How did you do it? How did you win all these? You know what he said? He said there was a period in his life where he trained twice a day, every day. I said, "Oh, okay." He then looked at me. He said, "No, you don't understand. Every day." He said, Christmas, New Year's, Thanksgiving, birthdays, anniversaries. He said for a solid 7 years, every single day. No holidays, no take a day off. No, I don't feel like it. No, I'm tired. No, I'm depressed. Every single day. So by the time he gets onto the platform and he holds onto the steel barrier and the umpire points that gun in the sky and says, "On your marks," he's been training 7 years leading up to that moment. And I think what a lot of people don't get about performance at the highest level is by the time you see the person perform, they've been building up to it at moments you don't get to see. And it's about the discipline of building up when people don't get to see the moments.
Absolutely. I mean, you've catalogued a lot of the successes, and it's refreshing to hear, but have there been failures, and have you learned from them?
Yeah, none that I would share publicly. No, of course. I think failure is a part of the process. Failure is a part of the process. For me, I probably could have been where I am now 10 years sooner.
Really?
For sure. No question. I think that if I had leaned in earlier, if I'd really put my foot on the accelerator earlier.
How do you mean? In what ways?
So, Africans have this thing, right, where we are constantly disqualifying ourselves. This is why so many of us get overeducated for the jobs we have. Because we're convinced that if I can just get one more qualification, one more diploma, one more degree, I'll be better qualified. But that's a trap, because then when you get that one, you want to get another one, and then another one. Whereas my competitors in other parts of the world don't need to be qualified. They just do it. And they believe in themselves, and they go all the way in. I should also say to you that Africans love disqualifying each other.
Okay.
Right. So somebody will watch this conversation and go, "Who's this Lexis guy?" and just disqualify you. But they will watch a similar conversation held by a person who doesn't have your influence, with a 10% size of your audience. They'll just be in the States or the UK, and they will believe that person before they believe you. And a lot of that lack of belief in self, we internalize. And so it also manifests as a lack of belief in each other, and then a lack of belief in what we're capable of doing. So if I just believed in Vusi more when I was younger, I would have been much further. It took me years and several iterations of God whispering in my ear, going, "Hey, I'm calling you to this, and you're capable of this, and you're qualified to do this. Go do this." For me to go, "Okay, God, I'll go all in. I got it now." But what I did, which I think a lot of us do, is I found ways to constantly qualify myself. So I studied this. When I qualified, I studied that. And then when I qualified, I started this business. And then when I did well there, I started that business. And then when I won that award, I wanted another award, right? And what I thought I was doing was sufficiently qualifying myself so that when I would lean into what God has called me to do, I would be worthy. What I didn't realize, though, is, and it took me a long time to learn this, when they say God doesn't call the qualified, he qualifies the called. I didn't get it until I was much later, that I was spending time trying to justify God's calling me when I shouldn't have been doing that. I should have just done it.
Just do it. Don't question it.
I should have just gone all in.
Yeah.
All in. If I'd just gone all the way in, much sooner, I would be much further. So now I have to go twice as hard.
Yeah.
Because I'm not competing against what I'm capable of now. I'm competing against where I should have been now. And I'm chasing where we should be. And so it informs how I move, but it also informs the people I can work with.
Yeah.
So I should, one of the things people don't tell you about high performers is that they can either be a dream or a nightmare to work with, but they'll never be the middle. So if you work with or for me, you're either going to love it or you're going to hate it because of the drive. And if you're not a driven person, if you are not I am willing to put in time outside of work hours person, if you're not I have a plan for myself and this takes me somewhere kind of person, and if you're not I can see where we want to go and I believe it person, it's going to be hell for you.
Yeah.
And so if you are I just need a job, I just need to pay my bills, I just need to survive, there are spaces for that. Please, I'm not casting aspersions. There are spaces for that, there are careers for that, there are jobs for that. It's just not with me.
Yeah.
And it's never with high performers. So when you're a high performer, there's a lot of self-awareness that you need to know, hey, I actually push people beyond the limits of what they think is possible. And the reason I push them beyond the limits of what they think is possible is because I'm trying to push beyond the limits of what is possible.
Right.
So I'm pushing myself beyond the limits of what's possible. So we're going to go.
We're going to
And we're going to go all the way in.
Listen, if we're looking for that speech that'll make you believe in yourself and probably take that step, this is it. Honestly. 'Cause, the whole time I was thinking, well, yeah, I mean, Vusi, you're totally right. I could have, pushed a bit more. I need to believe in myself a bit more.
100%.
And I think the person who's listening now can relate. If you're listening and you can relate, you can share a message with us. You can send us a WhatsApp on 055-1111997. Already lots of messages coming in. Emmanuel Sabuti on Facebook says, Vusi Thembekwayo is one of the most intelligent guys I love listening to. He's smart and diligent. Lexis, I'm really enjoying the wisdom your guest is sharing. Such powerful insights. Kudos to you and your team for putting this together. As a young man eager to grow and make a meaningful impact, I'll be grateful for the opportunity to be part of his masterclass. Well, it's on tomorrow, Kosh. Thank you so much for your message. And Edmund White also says, very educative and inspirational presentation from your guest. You wanted to know... my question to him is that based on his personal experience and achievements, how can one effectively develop a people person to make a lasting impact in their life? Is that what you're saying? Vusi, do you get the question though?
No, I don't.
How can one effectively develop people person to make a life? Edmund, if you can kindly put it together a bit better for us, that would totally help. But Vusi, what grounds you when the noise gets loud?
Family. I'm a big family guy. I love my job. I love my career. I love my talent. I honor the God who gave it to me, and the opportunities that I've had. But for sure, nothing compares to 5 minutes spent with, my missus and the kids. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. I'm a big family guy. I love time with family. It is my place of pace and my simple space of peace. And,
how do you handle, let's say, burnout, criticism, pressure? How do you handle that?
I mean, that's a loaded question. Let's start first with the criticism. You and I are old enough to remember the world before social media.
Right.
There are some people watching this conversation who don't know that world. I'm old enough to remember the world of rotary phones. You remember those? Your mom had it and she stuck her finger in the dial.
Right.
And she rotated it to find the number, right?
Yep.
I'm old enough to remember the world of landlines, long before we had mobile phones. And so I remember MySpace. Young people watching this, there was a thing called MySpace. Right?
Yes.
I remember MySpace. I remember early version Facebook. Very early version Facebook.
High
right?
five?
Yeah, High Five. I remember High Five. Man, you're older than me. You're showing your age, right? And the pixelating of I remember those things. And so the reason I mention this is because when we started engaging on social media, we were engaging on a good faith conversation. People went into social media to genuinely share ideas and to exchange ideas. And so if somebody gave you feedback, even if it was criticism, it was on a good faith basis. But over the past, I want to say 10 years, that's changed, right? The tone of social media, the texture of it, the substance, the conversations have become so malevolent that I would advise people not to listen. Okay. This is important because the question was, how do you handle criticism?
Yes.
I do not listen to online criticism by design. I should also say, I was saying to somebody the other day, I'm fascinated by how courageous people who are cowards online are. This is a person who has a fake account, so they don't want to disclose who they are, but they have the audacity to try and call you out when they're not even willing to be who they are. So you have to be careful engaging in that kind of space. So what I look for is I have people in my life who I trust, who know my heart and who know my intentions, and I look for feedback and guidance from them. And that's a criticism that I'm more than happy to listen to, and more than happy to engage in. But I would say for sure, if you're watching this, you know, stay there. I just think there's a point of success, if I can use that word. There is a point of impact, rather, where it probably is worth your time to stay out of the comment section. One last thing. I don't know when, but there comes a time where your voice breaks the sound barrier to the extent that people forget you are a human being too. And so people start talking to you like you are a statue, like you're an avatar. And they forget that you're still a human being, you have hopes and dreams and aspirations, that you have your own demons that you're struggling with. And so I've come to learn that if I wouldn't trust you with the demons I'm struggling with, I'm not going to trust you with giving me feedback on how to handle life.
Right. You've launched an accelerator program for businesses called the School of Scale.
Yes.
What's the vision behind it? Tell us a bit more about it.
So we've rebranded. It used to be an accelerator program under our venture fund. It was called My Growth Fund Accelerator.
Okay.
But what we found was that the work we were doing was so involved and so necessary that keeping it a sub-branch of what we're doing in our VC wasn't helping what we were trying to do. So we decided to make it a standalone entity. That's the first. The second is we called it the School of Scale for a reason, because scale is something you can learn. So scale is a science. There are things that if I teach you to do, you can reach more people, right? That's the second. The third is that word scale, Lexis, is very important. The challenges we face in Africa are too big for us to think small. And I just, please hear my heart if my words fail me. I don't want to take away from people who do the little they can. Please, do the little you can. It isn't for me to, pass judgment on this. But for sure, if you have the ability or the capacity to influence more people, you should. And the reason is, we live in the poorest continent in the world with the highest number of young people, the fastest growing population rate. The challenges we have are so big, we shouldn't be thinking small, and we can't think small. So the work we do in the School of Scale is about helping founders of businesses. And what we've learned now is actually we work with a lot of first generation founders who are looking to transition those businesses, helping them build systems into those businesses so that they can scale them. So how do I take you from a company employing 100 people to 1,000 people? That's kind of the stuff that we do.
Okay.
How do I take it from a company employing 10 people to 100 people? Because in that process of helping you scale, we help you provide more jobs for people, more dignity to people.
Yeah.
I say to people all the time, running a successful business in the United States is great. Don't get me wrong, it's fantastic. But running a successful business in the United States means you contribute to the economic base of society.
Right.
Running a successful business in Africa means you contribute to society. Period. Finished. Because for every one person you employ, there is a household of 5 people. And typically here, in each of those places where you employ those people, they probably don't have a job in the rest of the household. And so a job for us is a source of dignity. It's different in developed economies than what it is here. So I feel very passionately about the work we do because I recognize how important it is that we help African entrepreneurs scale their businesses. I want to say one last thing.
Yeah.
My grandfather had businesses. When he was younger, he had businesses, and when he died, those businesses died. And that tends to be the story of our people. And there's somebody watching this who comes from that family, right? Where there's a patriarch in the family or matriarch in the family who at a point in time in their generation was very influential. There was a lot of wealth. And then when they died, the family's legacy died. And so the reason we do the work we do is to help those families protect their legacies, scale for the next generation, and most importantly, preserve the dignity of the societies that they work in.
How does anybody join for those who want to join this program?
So it's schoolofscale.co. We'll talk a lot about it tomorrow at the. So I'd say to people, come to the masterclass.
Yeah,
I've got a gift for people who'll be at the masterclass. It's
that's
like
great.
A free thing for them to jump onto. Sure.
If you're listening in and you want to be there tomorrow, the number to call is 020-201-8870. Call these numbers, and I'm sure Kuju's team would respond to you and then get you a pass so you can join in tomorrow at the conference center. I'm sure a lot of people are looking forward to it. I'm getting a gazillion messages. I wish I could read all of them, but we need to be wrapping up pretty shortly. Lexis, tell your guest I'm listening to him and I'm teary. I see my life, which I'm afraid I'm losing, in him. He must be that dream personality I want to grow to become. I loved and still love public speaking, but hard work and luck, not coincidence though, an opportunity, haven't worked for me. I'm hoping grace and God incidents will find me one day. We pray that's Lexis, I love listening to Vusi. His words resonate deeply with me. I couldn't agree more. It took me a long time to fully believe in myself, but once I did, I started seeing results so quickly. I'm my biggest fan, and Vusi's message has only reinforced that. Thanks for the inspiration. That's from Sika in Tema. And Parkwesi on YouTube says, Vusi's massive. What a mind he's got. I've been tuned in to him over some years now. Well, you won't want to stop, believe me. He's an amazing brother. Vusi, if this were your last interview,
Wow.
what truth would you like to leave behind?
Wow. Wow. I've been doing interviews for 25 years, and I've never come across that question. If this were your last interview, what truth would you like to leave behind? My truth would probably be a prayer. It would be, dear God, I did the best I could. I fought as hard as I could. I might not have reached where you wanted me to, but forgive my imperfections and bless those who bless you.
Amen.
That's it. That was a tough question, man.
I'm sorry, Vusi.
That was a tough question, man.
What
What truth would you like to leave behind?
Yeah.
Can I just say one more thing?
Yes. Go ahead.
I think that it's the responsibility of this generation to face this simple fact. Nobody is coming to save us. Nobody. And if we can understand what that means and honor what that calls us to do, life changes, Lexis, when you realize that there is no point looking over your shoulder because nobody's coming. It's all you. That idea you have that God has planted in your spirit rests on you. That dream you have for your family rests on you. The hopes that you carry from the people who brought you to this moment rest on you. And nobody is coming to save you. Once you embrace that, life changes. Because you then recognize that you can only be called to do the thing you are capable of. And so as big as your dreams are, that's your capacity. That's your capacity. A whale doesn't wake up in the morning asking, how do I cross oceans? It just does. An elephant doesn't wake up in the morning asking, how do I cross the savannah? It just does. And once you recognize that the journey you are called to go on, you already have the capacity to go through, life changes. I would love to sit here and say, I am super gifted, super talented, and I am the exception. I'm not. I just uncovered the secret. And the secret is, you've got what it takes. Whatever it is you want to do, go do it.
You know, I know people in high places, right?
Yes, sir.
I know some people at Nike.
Right.
And I think that you'd be great for you know,
I mean, you tell him. You tell him. I'll
Just do it.
I'll take the stock.
Just
I'll take
do
it.
it. Look, it's been totally amazing spending time with you, and I know you're tired. I totally appreciate you making time, even though you're very jet lagged.
Yeah.
But thank God Anita was able to come through with a coffee.
Thank you, Anita.
yes, and I'm grateful that you made time for this conversation. It was great spending time with you.
It was good. When we were outside and we were chatting, you were like, look, it's going to go a lot quicker than you think. I didn't. I want to say to you, thank you for doing this. I think profiling stories that need to be heard is a generational mission. And whether or not you hear it here in country, whether or not you're aware of it, the rest of us in other parts of the continent are well aware of the work you're doing. And I want to say to you, just keep going. It's 1,000 flowers that need to bloom, and telling these stories is so important. You are archiving history here, is what you're doing. So carry on, Alexis.
Thank you, Vusi.
Thank you, bro.
Great spending time with you. Personality profile here on Joy FM. I'm Lexis Bill. It's been such a very, well, I don't know what the word should be. Inspiring, great, terrific. It's been a Vusi evening, I should say. And I've enjoyed myself. I hope you did as well. If you missed any part of this conversation, the video is live on our Facebook page and our YouTube page as well. You can actually get on there and check it out and relive this conversation. I'm going to play this over and over again. It's going to be like in a playlist, like, you know what I'm saying? Because, I mean, the nuggets and the gems that you dropped were just totally amazing. And tomorrow, you wouldn't want to miss the Masterclass at the Accra International Conference Center. It's in partnership with EMY Africa. If you want to get a ticket, you can call 020-201-8870, and Kojo's team will get you a ticket so you can actually be there and listen to Vusi in person, have an interaction with him, and probably life gets better from there on. Thank you so much for staying tuned in, and Uncle Ken will be on your radio very shortly. On behalf of my crew, I'd like to say thanks a lot for spending time with us, and I'll be on your radio again tomorrow. Tomorrow we're going to be at Accra Chimota Retail Center for the Habitat Fair, so please make sure you're there as well. Enjoy your evening, and bye-bye.